My name is Lawrence Rosenberg, and this is the Alpha Human Podcast. We have an incredible couple with us today, Tom and Jen Satterly. Tom Satterly is a U.S. Army veteran who spent 20 years as a member of the elite Special Forces unit known as Delta Force. His first combat mission was the Battle of Mogadishu, the 18-hour firefight in Somalia that left 18 American soldiers dead and 73 wounded and was immortalized in the film Black Hawk Down. Tom went on to serve in every major U.S. conflict where the U.S. Special Forces were deployed, from Somalia and Bosnia to Afghanistan and Iraq, including being an integral part of Operation Red Dawn, the mission that led to the capture of Saddam Hussein. While in Iraq, Tom also led a 10,000-person task force and was in charge of protection for President Bush while he was in country. After retiring as a Command Sgt Major, the highest rank an enlisted soldier can achieve, Tom co-founded an elite military contracting firm to train the next generation of special operations warfighters. Jen Satterly is a filmmaker and photographer, and she was director of film and photography at the Special Ops Training Company Tom founded, where she was responsible for shooting large-scale military training exercises. Jen was fully embedded with the Navy SEALs and the Green Berets, filming realistic training missions before deciding to dedicate all her time to healing veterans and their families suffering the effects of post-traumatic stress. Together, Tom and Jen are the co-founders of the All Secure Foundation, which serves special operation combat veterans and their families to help them heal from the psychological toll of war. Tom and Jen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
What a warm welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
There you go. I was practicing that all day. Honestly, it's such an honor to have you both here. I read your book, Tom, and I got to say it made a huge impact. And it made a huge impact and was profound in many ways, not just because you give a true glimpse at the harrowing nature, the shock and awe, but the visceral nature of combat and war and what it does to somebody. But you also give a window into your soul and into how that kind of violence affects someone as tough as you and your men. And, you know, I think it absolutely changed the way I view many of the heroes in the special ops community that I look up to, knowing how human they are. And so I just wanted, an incredible book.
I really appreciate that. That was my hope, was to capture the reality, not the war stories, but the reality of what the human has to go through, what it does to you and what you have to do to get through it. And I think, Steve Jackson's a really great co-author. He got it there. I'm definitely not a writer. I had things in my life I got lucky enough to go do and was able to take part in. Wow, he was really, really great at capturing what I wanted to say. So I'm glad.
And he really does capture your voice. I mean, it's seamless. It's an amazing story. So I guess I want to get started, and I'll throughout the conversation, I'll bring in some quotes from the book to kind of guide us through where I'd like to go with this. But I really want to start off where, you started having the inspiration to want to not just join the military, but become part of special ops, right? And there's this quote, you said that the thought of being one of America's best appealed to that part of me that was always trying to prove that I was strong enough and good enough. And so I wanted to kind of delve into that. I mean, going back, what inspired you to not just join the military, but take it to that next level? I know you mentioned something about the special forces creed, de oppresso liber. So I'll leave that with you.
You know, it's funny. I tell the story about how I joined the military, how I decided to be a Green Beret, and then stumbled into, actually getting into Delta. Joining the Army was one of those, however long it takes to drive from Columbus, Indiana to Indianapolis. It was about an hour drive. My friend was back from basic training. His head was bald. I had long hair probably. And we're going to a John Cougar concert, right? We're in Indiana. It's a summer. Right. We're going to John Cougar concert. What says America and joining the Army other than that? And he was telling me all about basic training. He was going on his way to Germany for a couple of years, and I'd never been out of Indiana. So in that hour drive, he had talked me into joining the Army. I had no idea what I was going to do. And so when I went to the recruiters right away, it was I want to be a doctor or a medic or whatever. I was studying that. And they're like, yeah, you ever thought about combat engineer? So yeah. Instantly I was sold on the combat engineer. You get to blow stuff up, you get to build stuff. It's great. Of course, they had a quota to fill. So, I joined for 4 years to get college money and get out, go to college. I was going to give 4 years. If they would have given me all the money, I probably would have done 2 years and got out. But never had aspirations for the military. I made fun of my brother for joining between his junior and senior year. He went to basic training. His senior year, he had that haircut, that basic training haircut. So right. I was making fun of him. I'm 2 years behind him. So I'm cool. I'm in, freshman in high school and making fun of my senior brother about his haircut. And joined the Army. So my 3 years in Germany introduced to a Hungarian. My platoon sergeant was a former Hungarian sergeant in the Army, so he had different ideas of what being a soldier was. And he took us to several different training events that really sparked me. We went to French commando school. That was a lot better than what I was doing in the regular Army.
Wow.
I got to compete with 1,000 different soldiers, and I won the slot. I had one single slot to go to German Ranger School, and I got to go to German Ranger School, and he took us to platoon confidence training put on by Green Berets down in Bad Tölz, Germany. So I had a different taste in my mouth for what I wanted to do. Plus, one of my best friends at the time had a picture of his father holding him wearing his dad's Green Beret as a baby in his arm. And he was like, my dad was a Green Beret in Vietnam. I'm going to be a Green Beret. And I adopted his dream. He left Germany a year before I did, and I adopted his whole life dream. Like, I'm going to be a Green Beret now. I don't know why, but that looks cool. And this, the training sounds awesome. And so, I re-enlisted just to get back to Fort Bragg and went through Special Forces Assessment and Selection and made that, and then went through the qualification course for 6 months and made that. And then I'm in language school. And, it's funny, I look back now and I'm still friends with that person. And he had finally reconnected with his father and found out that that was all a lie. His father was never a Green Beret. So I got into the Special Forces based on a lie. And so did he. And, but I guess that doesn't matter, but that was just an interesting turn of life for him just recently, I think last year. And so I'm in language school trying to learn Persian Farsi. And a couple of guys that had gone to the qualification course with me that I didn't know where they were from. They came to my class one day on Fort Bragg and they said, hey, you need to call this number. It's for the recruiters for Delta. You should call them. I'm like, okay, is that better than this? He goes, oh yeah, it's a lot better. We think you have what it takes. So once you call the number. So I called the recruiter, he had paperwork ready, gave me a PT test, and I got the go ahead to go to selection in the spring of '91.
That's the guy I remember from the book who just kind of like appeared and said something along the lines after kind of critiquing, how you were doing your, doing the exercise that you were involved in. Said something along the line when you snapped back at the guy, he said something along the lines of, I've killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Something like, and then he just disappeared, right?
He was that guy that showed up later. one of the two. And,
right. So he shows up later and essentially, gives you this card and says, call this number now, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, now, okay, I better do it now. But what I'm wondering is, do you have to be tapped up in order to join SFOD, or
No,
can
that's the
anyone in
wonderful
special
thing.
operations apply?
Yeah, there are some requirements of rank and time in service and age. Other than that, they don't care. Everybody's welcome. And I emphasize that to people. Everybody's welcome. People who don't try, that's where I live by the greatest fair is a fair to try. Well, I would have gone to selection, but I probably wouldn't have made it. Well, you'll never know. You know, those who have tried and failed, those who've gone back and failed, gone back a third time if they're lucky, and made it. You know, so we want guys who don't quit. We've always wanted, nobody looks for angels. We look for the guys that, you know, the right guy for the right job.
And you were really young at that point.
Yeah.
When you got
way
tapped
too
up.
young to be. Yeah. I was way too young and immature to be in an organization with that much power, that's for sure. But they know how to manage it. They know how much power you can have in that organization. They wrangle you in, and they beat it into you. They train you so well that everything in my life was muscle memory. Everything that I did was basically, I had done it so often that I just reacted. So, you know, at work, and then of course the rest of life follows with that, how you react to everything else. But it was an amazing organization to be in. You know, it wasn't perfect. Nothing's perfect. We're all human, and there's people involved in everything. But I couldn't have gone to a better location. I couldn't have been luckier to be with the people I was with and to learn from around the world, different walks of life. And it surprised me every day, different people would show up from OTC after they made selection. And you start making fun of the new kids coming in, but really you're terrified that here come the new studs on my heels my entire career.
Right.
And so that whole never quit attitude and just try anything, you know, got me through that. It wasn't anything special other than the fact that I chose to not quit.
What's the difference between Delta and the rest of the special operations community, whether it's Navy SEALs or Rangers or Green Berets, but in particular, you had joined the U.S. Army Special Forces. You were working on qualifying as a Green Beret when you got tapped up to go into Delta. So what's the difference between Delta and the Green Berets?
The obvious answer is the mission. You know, the Green Berets go in and do a multitude of missions, whether it's nation building or teaching, you know, to liberate the oppressed. So they go in and they do nation building. They also have a special section that has gone in and done the special stuff, just in case we couldn't get there in time. You know, they're Charlie teams. But our selection, I think, is what sets us apart. Our selection and our psychological evaluation process, whatever magic that they have and hold there, it works. And it's worked since the beginning, and they've only improved upon it. And they've only removed a couple of things from selection since the beginning, since its inception. And it's not because of political pressure, even though we've had political pressure to change things in the past, they never bowed to it. They only removed things that didn't make it fair for everyone, or something that could be trained later. If it was a problem to get people in, and you could train you up for it later, then you had until not the end of selection, like swimming. Used to be you had to pass a 100-meter swim test in boots and BDUs without drowning. Now the reason they did that was, you know, selections in West Virginia, crossing a lot of swollen creeks. Somebody had died up there during selection crossing a creek one time, so it's a safety thing. And so they argued, well, we want you to get more people who can't swim in because you're really cutting out a large number of people who can't swim, and it's a trainable skill. So we moved it to the end of, say, operator training course, 6 months after. If you make selection and you can't swim by the end of the 6-month course, then you're not going to make it, because the planet's 2/3 water. You're bound to end up in water sometime. Right. And nobody wants a person who can't swim in a combat situation. So when you're out there alone. So they haven't changed much of selection, and only when it made sense and made it more fair. They have an age limit, so you have to be a certain minimum age. It's still pretty young for the things you do, but it's a lot more mature than the 19-year-old. You know, your 23 is a minimum, and so you're a little bit more mature. You've been through one cycle of enlistment already, or on your second enlistment, and you have to be an E5 or above. So you're not getting those younger, crazier people. You're getting more maturity in there. And then the psychological process that you have to go through, and the selection process to get there really weeds out those that you don't want. And then a 6-month course with the peer evaluations, the operator trainer course after that, after selection, they're watching you again. And then you're on probation for 2 more years after that before you really can start to breathe. You know, I don't think I ever took a breath at work. Every day I drove into work, I was hoping that the gate would open and let me in. You know, you never know the day that you're just not good enough. And if you're not, you're not. And that's just, to be fair about it. There's a lot of hurt feelings. Oh, Delta's the best. No, SEALs are the best. You know what? Depends on the mission. But honestly, I will stand by it and say that I think our people are more psychologically evaluated and more mature across the board.
Interesting. I mean, you talk about in the book, you say that we were taught that we could accomplish anything and practiced visualizing winning and never failing. If for some reason there was a chance we might fail, we visualized how to overcome the problem. We were invincible. No one could touch us. So, I mean, that's an incredible statement, right? So just what did you learn in operators training course in OTC? What did they teach you?
Wow. They taught you everything to be a warrior that you needed. And they taught you so repetitively that you would do it at least 10,000 times. I mean, everything you did would be repetitive over and over, the same, and you wouldn't do it wrong. You would do it slow and perfect. And you would start out that way. Smooth is fast. You know, everyone, oh, fast is fast. No, smooth. Slow is fast. If you do it right, and you do it right every time, by the time you have to do it under pressure, it's just a reaction. It's just muscle memory. And that frees up my brain to look around the room. Threat. I've already got my gun out, and I'm already seeing what else is going on because my muscle memory is doing this. I don't even know what's happening over here. My brain's already over here working on 3 problems down the road. It's like playing chess. So I think they taught me to play chess and not checkers in life, with the ability to think ahead, think through problems, expect the worst. So when it happens, you're ready for it. And again, another thing, as I talk, I think of things that have almost ruined my life. You know, that perfection-driven aggression of getting things done right, and you know, treating the kids like they're Delta Force soldiers as well. When the dishes are dirty, it's like, oh, all right, guys, you know, I attack every problem that way because it becomes who you are. And after 6 months of basically shooting and close quarters battle, which is shooting while moving through a closed building, you know, and everything else along the way of that day with physical fitness and with all the other specialties that we do, it's really shoot, move, and communicate. And you did it for 6 months straight. And then after that, you did it for 2 years. And I mean, I was at my 2-year, you know, rookie thing when Somalia kicked off. And I literally felt like I could have done anything. I wasn't afraid. I mean, no, at that age, I don't think I even considered fear. I don't remember. Have I talked about considering fear in Somalia? I mean, I talk about it a lot later in life. But as I think back to what I thought then, I thought I was invincible. I thought, we're so good. I'm so confident in my skills. You asked me to go do something, you know, in a foreign country, in a house I don't know. Okay, I felt good doing it.
Were you that way going in, or did they make you that way?
No, they made me that way. I've had self-confidence issues most of my life. I mean, growing up as a child, I don't think I had those issues. I just think that I was just a kid growing up. I don't think I considered much past what I'm going to do today, you know. But they beat it into you. You do it so much and you want to do your job so well. And I was around so many professionals that, you know, it's like being on a pro football team and you're looking at all the other players. They do different jobs and man, they're great at them. And what a place to be. But it also takes its toll on you as I'm not good enough. Wow. So I have those emotions of I'm not being good enough. However, I was driven to try to be better. So I'm always working that way to, oh, I'm not good enough. I'll get good enough. I'll get good enough. I'll run 25 miles today if that's what it takes. You know, so we would do sadistic things to ourselves while working out or while shooting. You know, cinder blocks, carry those a mile, then shoot. Now go another mile and shoot, just to elevate your heart rate, elevate your breathing, wear your hands out to simulate the stress of combat. So when I shoot, it's not, oh, it's not perfect. I'm shaking and disheveled and I can still shoot right between your eyes, because we did it that way. We just thought of everything horrible we could do in life, and we put ourselves through it to be, so when it happened, we'd be good at it.
So you talk about the psychological piece and how you're evaluated. In the book, you say the psych evaluations weren't just to determine a potential operator's moral compass. They were also designed to determine who, among even elite soldiers, could perform the duties required of a unit warrior. One of those tasks was the ability to kill without hesitation. Various studies have shown that even in a pitched battle, the vast majority of combatants will not actually shoot at the enemy. So how does Delta help you overcome that? Because that's clearly, and maybe, maybe that ends up being one of the side effects later on, the fact that they've been able to do that to you, or you've been able to use what it is they're giving you to be able to do that. But I'm curious, how do you get over that?
Just muscle memory, just doing it without thought. The Army, the military in all has gotten better at it. Read the book on killing, and it's talking about, used to shoot at bullseyes, and then it shaped to human shapes. And then it went to actual people. I mean, at work, we were shooting digital photography, full-size pictures of the bad guys and terrorists dressed up. Every night we'd go to simunitions and go do, force on force and shoot at each other with paintballs, basically, but they hurt a lot more. And with bad guys, and then turn the corner, because we're always entering rooms towards each other. So you're shooting, running down the hallway, and there's a gun, there's a guy with a gun. It better be not my guy. I have to assess so much. And we did that so often on the range, in the house, with the computer systems, where you see situations pop up and you engage. And if you ever really shot a hostage more than a couple times on paper, I mean, that's a failed national mission that the president would send us on. You were gone. You were gone for a year. So you didn't do it. You took that extra second of thought before you engaged. After they took away thought of, is there a threat in their hand? Is there a threat in their hand? I never looked at faces when I entered rooms. I would enter a room and I look at hands. If there's nothing in your hands, I don't care what you're doing.
Right.
I'm going to go to my sector. I'm going to finish my point of domination, and anything in that room along the way that has anything in their hands, that's all I'm scanning for is hands. If there's some in your hands, you're dead, and I'm on to the next set of hands. If there's something threatening in your hands, it was muscle memory to pull the trigger and look for the next thing. So you're so busy doing what you're taught to do over and over and over again, you don't even think about it. Enter a room, go left or right. Go opposite the person in front of you. Here's my point of domination. Here's my sector. My weapon's up. Oh, there's a threat. I'm off safe. I'm firing. I'm off. And I'm done. I don't even think about it. What's my next task? Where am I getting out of this room? What's the next room? Keep going until it's over with. Until I hear the words all secure, I'm not stopping, and no one's going to stop. And you're constantly assessing like a computer the entire way through. Hands, hands, hands. Uniform. There's a gun. Okay, uniform now. Oh, it's another operator, or a low-vis operator wearing civilian clothes that threw on a vest to come in, to help out. There's so much more to think about that you're not thinking about it being a human. You're thinking about the mechanics of threat. Is that the proper threat? It's dead. I'm on to the next thing. And that carries you for a while. It carries you through the mission, and it carries you for the years. And then when I got out and started looking back on it, and then you stop and you slow down, and now I'm 10 years out, retired, it's like, wow, those are humans attached to those hands somewhere. And there's even faces I don't know till later. And sometimes their faces are so disgusting because of what we had to do to them, when they had some in their hands. It wasn't always, sometimes you shoot the hands first because that's what you're looking at. And you have to finish, in case they have body armor or another threat, because shooting someone in the hands doesn't really take away the threat. You have to destroy it. So you never saw the real person. You saw the aftermath. You know, you saw their hands, the weapon, and then the aftermath of a dead human. And then that comes back to haunt you. Just, it doesn't haunt me in a way that I make mistakes. It haunts me in the way that those are human lives. And I didn't think about it until so many years later.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Counterintuitively, unless you're going through what you're going through, you would think that, oh, it's just enough that, you know, these are bad people. These are evil people. You know, these, you know, they're criminals, they're terrorists. And that's all you need to know to do the job. And clearly, that's just not the case. So that's really, really powerful. And
we
so,
took it to a point one time to where we had a new guy on our team. I was no longer the new guy. And we were training, and we entered the room just to see what the new guys are going to do. We entered the room, and one of the targets had a knife, you know, and I hear this, drop it, drop it, drop it. And I turned and I walked over and I go, what are you doing? It's like, he's got a knife. And I pull my gun up and shot him in the head, and the paper blows everywhere. And I go, we're not cops. We're on to the next room already. Okay. We're here for a reason. And it's not to get bogged down in this. We're hostage rescue. So any threat is dead. We're on to save, you know, those that aren't supposed to be there. And it was like a teaching lesson, but really, I mean, wow. People are always trying to second guess you. Why don't you shoot them in the legs? Why don't you wound them? Why don't we get safer bullets or safer guns? I'm like, you know, and you tell them, you'll never understand it, and just thank a soldier for that, because
right.
we don't want people to go through what we've had to go through. It's not meant that way. So it should be meant to understand that, you know, that judgment on people. That's what a lot of people worry about. A lot of soldiers worry about is the judgment later. You know, in Vietnam, the baby killers in every war has people who have been put down for doing what they do, but from people who don't understand it, you know, that don't understand that they're living in the freedoms given to them by people who have to go do the disgusting thing that they really don't want to do either.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's easy to criticize when, you know, you're safe and you're sound and you're living an easy life while others are sacrificing theirs so that you can do that. You were part of the force of Delta operators, Army Rangers, Night Stalkers that were sent to Somalia in the 90s to hunt the warlord Mohammed Adid and his aides. And this is what turns into the Battle of Mogadishu, which was, unbeknownst to me before I looked deeper into it, the longest sustained firefight in the U.S. military since the Vietnam War up to that time. Like, I mean, just unbelievable. And by the time that battle ended, you were a changed man. Can you give us a boil down of what happened and how you survived?
Yeah, my segment of that 18 hours was basically, in a nutshell, was fast roping into the unknown, 90 feet under fire, and realizing we're outside of where we're supposed to be. We're outside the security zone. So my team has to take down a house along the way and then fight our way back in past the Rangers into the target. It was so already heavily under fire, and then the brownout was so bad that we were put way out. Had to fight our way in, finally made it to target. The detainees were cuffed and in line, so I got to work in searching, and you know, you could hear the volume of fire picking up, but we're still cracking jokes, you know. I hope we're home for dinner, you know, and I hope they have lobster and steak or something. But you know, we're cracking jokes and talking, you know, lining up detainees. A 5-ton got blown up outside, and that was one of the awakening moments a bit. But I'm still like, oh, okay, well, you know, things happen, right? We're gonna take some hits. It's a 5-ton. I don't know who's getting injured or what. We're actually lining up, standing in a courtyard. I'm standing there with a garbage bag full of Somalia money. I was going to take it back. It was a whole garbage bag full, probably worth $2. I don't know. And I'm waiting to get on the convoy to go out. And there I'm standing at one of those thin metal gates. It's a green, rusty gate in a courtyard of this house. And I'm waiting to go out to the street and load up on the vehicles. And the ranger sitting on the ground, leaning against the gate, his neck just explodes with a bullet come through the gate and right through his neck. And I realized that it was getting heavier and heavier. And that's when I heard an RPG launch again. And I've been hearing them, but this one kind of launched over us. And I looked up and saw it hit the helicopter. And 6-1 started spinning and flying off to the north and west. And I was like, okay, that's going to change things, right? I'm still a young guy, but I knew that was going to change something. I threw the cash in the sewer system, and there was a metal grate on the ground. I threw the cash in there. I remember slashing the tires of this car that was in the courtyard, and that way nobody would follow us. And then I knew we turned and we headed east, and then to turn north to go find the crash site. And I could not believe how many Somalis were already lined up on both sides, a block each side, shooting at us every time we crossed an intersection. It was a huge firefight. It was just, I was in amazement of how people were crossing the street with how many bullets were flying. And I think back now, and everybody, when they're afraid, shoots high when you're untrained. So I'm assuming a lot of those bullets were going just over our heads and high because they were scared and running and shooting. And thank goodness for untrained people.
Right.
And I remember when we turned to go north, and we went about a half a block, and I jumped out in the middle of the street on this boulder in the middle of the road and started shooting towards the crash site. And there was people running across the street, and me and another guy across the street from C1, Earl, was shooting up the street. And I looked at him, and I started shooting, and I looked back, and he was already being dragged away by 2 people. He had been shot right in the head. And I didn't know it. I just thought, oh, Earl's injured, shoot, what happened? We pushed up the street and found the crash site and took down the house with people in it, and then just set up that entire night. And about maybe 11 or 12 at night, I really don't know what time it was, we were out of ammo, out of water. The house had been blown up, down. The walls had been blown down around us in multiple places. We had 2 Rangers who were in our courtyard bleeding out. I don't know if the Ranger had died across the street yet, who they were working on throughout the night. And I didn't know if we were going to get resupplied, and I could hear the convoy under fire the entire night trying to get to us, the loud volume of the heavy guns shooting. And I asked my team leader, I was like, you think they're going to make it? And, being the team leader he was like, I remember he's just like, I hope so. And he turned and walked off, and I was like, oh, shit. I was looking for a little more than that. But I probably had a magazine left. And we got resupplied just shortly after that, thank goodness. But I remember taking my knife out, putting it on the bed, and I remember thinking, I'm not going to make it. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to make it. And so I just I felt calm, like, oh, okay, let's do this. And let's just take out as many Somalis as we can and save as many American lives as possible. And then I won't have to worry about it. I won't know the moment it happens. I didn't want to be laying there with like one of the guys screaming in pain. I mean, that scared me, to be wounded and screaming in pain. But to be dead didn't. And I think that's when my life changed. I felt that calm of, okay, I'm dead, right? What's death? I mean, it's better than this right now. So I can look back and kind of know that that's the moment that my switch flipped to whatever. I mean, when you give up on life, it's kind of, I don't want to say comforting, but I mean, because giving up on life sounds a bit different to different people. But when you figure you're done anyway, not at your own hand, but you can't do anything about it, it's kind of relaxing to like give into it, and that that helped me out the rest of the night. And then thank goodness we got resupplied. And then I don't know, maybe just before the sun was coming up, we started hearing people talking and a vehicle getting real close. Right. And a couple of the armored vehicles had made it to us, and 10th Mountain Division soldiers were everywhere, both sides of the street, just standing. I was like, I remember in awe, like, wow, they're all out in the street in mass numbers. I guess mass numbers of people scare people off. I don't know, but they were in the streets and walking, and they were getting shot at. And I'm like, you don't want to stand there. I remember the first thing one guy walked in, he's like, hey, you got any dip? I'm like, wow, you guys just strolling in here like it's a training event, man, And I remember telling him, you better get out of the street, man. There's been a lot of fire. And he's laying down by a car. I go, that's not a good place. We've had 2 or 3 people hit there. And he starts engaging down the street. So I knew somebody would pop back up again. And I knew the little birds were coming. And every time they came, that's where they dumped all their hot brass. You could hear them coming, just rocking the miniguns, and all that hot brass falling right down on that 10th Mountain Soldier. He jumped up and screaming, thinking he was getting shot because they're hard and they're hot. And he took off running. I was like, I know it happened to me earlier in the night. That's why I knew it was going to happen. But, we got use the vehicles to get the helicopter frames off the pilots' bodies, which is why we wouldn't leave. They were strapped underneath the helicopter. We got most of their bodies out, put them on top of the vehicles. And when they said load up, we're going to drive out to the convoy, get into the convoy, and the convoy will take you to, I didn't know. The Packy Stadium is where we're going to go, but I didn't know at the time. And I opened up the back of that armored personnel carrier, and it was so full. They pulled it back shut and locked it. And I remember thinking, there's an Army adage where, how many people can you fit into any vehicle? And the answer is always one more. There's always one more. It was never that. It was not that day. And so they come up with a new plan. We're going to run out, we're going to walk out. The vehicles will go along with us, and you will use that for cover.
Right.
Yeah. As soon as we started and the bullets started flying, those vehicles took off. And we were all like, well, let's take off running with them. And so we ended up trying to run out, and it was just engaging the whole time, shooting and at everything you could see. Finally made it back. Got on a Humvee. You guys get on that one, you get on that one. I was with a guy from one team and another from my team. There was 3 of us from the unit in the back of that Humvee. And those 2 Humvees took off. And I thought, we're out of here, man. We're shooting at everybody on the streets. They're running around. They're crazy. And we finally passed that 21 November road, I think was the name of it, to where a different clan had ruled the city, and they're friendly to us.
Right.
And the shooting slowly stopped after that point. It was like, okay, all right. We crashed through the burning tires. We made our way back to the back of the airfield, and there was nobody else there. There was no one else with us. And I didn't know where they were. Our radios were dead. And so I waited, 30 minutes maybe. And nobody showed up. So we drove around the airfield back to the hangar. And that's when I saw like 12 bodies laid out on the street, covered in ponchos. And we pulled in, and I saw vehicles everywhere, just soaked in blood, and the smell of bleach and sand in the air as the sun was coming up, heating up the tarmac, and nobody was there. And I just remember grabbing more ammo and started cleaning my weapon, and I was screaming out at people that were there, like, what's going on? Everybody had gone out that entire night. So I found out that I found out last year, a 10th Mountain Soldier found me on social media. And I think I posted a picture of me sitting on the back of that Humvee, and it had, some numbers written on it that somebody recognized, said that was my vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've always wondered why we went to the back gate and everybody else went somewhere else, He said, we got lost.
Oh, wow.
We got lost. So I don't know. I'm in the back shooting people. I don't know where we're going. I just want to get out of there. And he goes, we got lost and separated, so we just took off. And I go, well, thank God you didn't stop anywhere. And so years later, reconnected with that guy and found out that, they'd gotten lost, but it worked out for us. Before we started to go back out, helicopters started coming back in from the Pakistani Stadium, dropping people off at the airfield and going back and picking them up. We just took the long route home. And that's when we started finding out the real toll of what had happened, how many people we had lost, lives, people were, prisoners of war, taken hostage and missing. And that's when anger set in. A fight's a fight. But dragging bodies and burning bodies and dismembering your friends changed it for me. It was no longer a fair fight. They brought in another squadron and sent us home because they thought that if we went out, it would be very, very bad. And they were probably right. Mm-hmm. It would have been one of those bad situations. And that's probably up to good leadership not to send high-trained, angry men back into the hornet's nest, to do more damage, because it probably would have been a lot worse.
Yeah. And in between all of that, if you read the book, it's just, and you're talking about it now. Obviously in reading the book, I know how hard it was for you to ever talk about this. So the fact that you can even talk about it now, the way you're talking is testament to Jen and what you guys have been doing with the foundation, and we'll get to that soon. But you have to read the book to truly understand what you went through in those 18 hours, because a lot of RPGs, a lot of bullets, a lot of death that was going on around you. And it is a miracle that, you guys survived. And in the book, you say surviving war and its aftermath was all about hatred, anger, and unbelievable violence. I knew that from now on, in order to do my job right and survive, I would have to focus on those aspects, remove empathy and compassion for others, and I wouldn't feel the pain. So is this where now, you start kind of feeling the, before it was, this is great, I'm invincible, I can do anything. And now there's like a whole different perspective, and psychologically, is this where you start going down that slope?
Yeah, definitely. I think the ideology of helping people changed to the ideology of punishing bad people, right? Mm-hmm. Versus, what's your job? Why help people? I think it changed to, what's your job? I kill people that need killing. It was, I'm the guy you call when you want someone dead because they're bad. And that's kind of different look at your job, right? It's just mm-hmm. what I focused on. I came in ideological. I'm going to take down those bullies and help those people, and and help them uplift themselves. And it just I ended up being in the job where we don't uplift anybody. We go in and we remove threats. We remove evil dictators and terrorists that want to cut your head off and slash your children up, and in front of you, and just because of who you are, just because of what they've been taught, about you. Mm-hmm. And you have to be pretty evil and violent yourself to meet that. And I knew that if I let those emotions of losing all those friends overcome me, that I would be worthless. I thought back then. That was my thinking back then. I needed to be you see the culture, the military culture, the tattoos, the muscles, the guns, the beards and long hair. I'm gonna kill things. It's like, man, that's quite a Halloween mask, forever. And I wore it my most of my adult life.
And then while later on, while in Iraq, especially Fallujah, you talk about Fallujah and how much that reminded you of Mogadishu, how out of control things were there during the insurgency. You and your team were going out on hits every day, essentially being sent out to kill or capture targets, insurgency leaders, bomb makers. And in the book, you say the unit's legacy was hostage rescue and taking down high-value targets, whether terrorists, tyrants, or drug lords. We were built to take on a mission, complete it, and return home, not 10 missions a day, every day. And as the enemy increased their level of violence, so did we. A call would come in, the heavy metal would blast. So I guess you guys would now, turn on the music, and you'd start downing those energy drinks. And after the others had worked, I guess after you and the others had worked yourselves into what you called a controlled frenzy, you said we were like sharks working ourselves into a feeding frenzy, predators and prey with blood in the water. Imagine living in fear, under relentless stress and anxiety, in a constant state of adrenaline, fueled, heightened awareness for 90-day stretches at a time. You get yourself amped up 10, maybe more times a day on death metal and caffeine and pill-induced rage. So this is happening while you're in Fallujah and probably many other places. It's amazing that you were in for as long as you were in, and we're doing this. No wonder you've had so the damage that was going through. But at this point now, are you so lost in the moment that you can't? I mean, do you know that things are screwed up and that you don't want it to be that way? Or like, are you just 24/7 in a self-induced rage and running on that aggression in order to get the job done? I mean,
yeah, by Iraq, I was a leader. So I had a whole troop of pipe hitters like I was back then that were just on the beginnings of the 20-year war, so, and I know I still have friends there that were there with me that are still there going to war. And I've been out 10 years.
Going with their sons now.
Going with their sons.
Wow.
I know fathers who have deployed and gone on hits with their sons.
Wow.
Oh man. So I don't think I knew it at all. It was, to us, it was the culture. To us is what we needed to do. And it was just who I was. I became that. So it wasn't that I knew I needed to change. I thought, this is me. This is me. I'm a killer. This is what killers do. And I had a whole troop of killers, and they were such amazing men. I mean, my hardest job is to find the bad guys. Where are they? So I can release these men. Let's go here. Let's destroy this guy's life. Here's another one. We woke up Christmas Day, and the guys were bored. I went and dug through a packet, and I go, who wants to go on a hit? I do. Here's a whole packet of people that need, rolled up and talked to. So, all right, plan this one. Let's go. We did a Christmas Day hit right across the river. It was just, there were so many people to detain and question, and we'd work our way up and down different chains, looking for Saddam, looking for different leaders, and it never ended. And so that's just what you did. Nobody was going to complain. They put me down one time for 3 days. My sergeant major put me down for 3 days and said, you're combat ineffective. I couldn't sleep. I was worried about some stuff at the time, and I couldn't get any rest. And so my sergeant major saw it, and he's like, listen, I think he just wanted to go out on hits. So he goes, you're going to stay here. The doctor gave me, because he took my place, but the doctor gave me some sleeping pills, and he pulled out a bottle of, whiskey or something out of his fridge. He goes, this will help. And he gave me something else. He goes, this ought to knock you out for at least a good day and a half. And I think 6 hours later, I was up and walking around looking at in the talk, looking at what the missions, and they were like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be better. I can't sleep. And he said, all right, look, you're not going anywhere. Matter of fact, I don't want you in this room. So he put me down for 3 days just to sleep. It's probably the worst 3 days of my life.
Wow.
And men are going out on hits, and I'm not. I'm like, this, if something happens, I was going to explode. If something happened to my men and I wasn't out there, I would have exploded. So thank goodness it didn't. But that was literally my only break in the entire time I was there, was that 3 days they put me down. And honestly, I think he did 3 days because he wanted to go out and do some hits because he was tired of sitting in the office all the time.
And then, so you're getting psychological damage, you're getting physical damage throughout this whole time. And throughout the book, there are instances where, you're taking just tremendous blows. You were blown up twice. But
still feel those. Those are still here with me.
So, but you continue to tough it out instead of asking for help because, as you said, you didn't want to be ejected from the unit. What you said, and I'll quote, I realized that I had no one to talk to about this. I sure couldn't say anything to my men. I couldn't let them perceive me as anything less than strong and confident. Nobody wants a weak leader in combat. I couldn't tell my bosses or the unit psychiatrists because I feared I might get fired, and I couldn't lay it on my family. Either they wouldn't want to hear about it, or I didn't want to worry my folks and my siblings. So it's like, is that the culture? I don't know if was that the culture then? Is that still the culture now, that you just don't talk about this stuff?
We still hear it. We hear it every day. And the story you just laid out about what I wrote in that book is so different to what we preach right now. Mm-hmm. And that book was written to show all my mistakes. A lot of people, you're writing a book, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, the way you read it. It's not about how cool I am.
Right.
And so I'm laying it all out there so people will see that, oh, those are true emotions. That's how I feel. Oh, nobody did tell me that the psychs would kick us out. Nobody told me that I'd be fired. Nobody.
Or lose your clearance.
Yeah,
or
we tell ourselves that.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves that. So now we preach to
Right.
people. It's like, look at what I did and listen to what we're telling you now. You know, you keep your body sharp, you know, your biceps aren't quite big enough. You go to the gym, you work them, right? So if you're having some issues with your head, it's the same thing. You go work it out. You go strengthen it. You go talk. So I don't want to talk to my wife about it. Well, your wife certainly notices. So there's a problem there if you're not talking about it. You know, at least share some. You don't have to say I blew somebody's head off and it was bloody, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Hey, some things happened and it really affected me and I'd like to get some, you know, something off my chest and things like that. Always helps out. You know, and we tell people now, and my wife brought this up. It's about, you know, you would stop one of your mates from bleeding out on the battlefield. You got shot and fell right there. You'd stop him. You'd run out there and drag him to safety.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll stand there and watch them drink themselves to death at a bar, or talk about miserable this and miserable that, and I'm not good enough. And you think, well, I'm gonna check on Joe, you know, and then he shoots himself. And we have all the tools we need to do these things right and to do them correctly and to change the culture of calling it weakness. It's wow, I need a little help with the horrible things I've seen, right? I'm a human and those were horrible things. And I should talk about it. That way my mind's sharp, along with my body, along with my shooting, along with my CQB skills. Everything's sharp. You know, she's like, would you want a soldier out there who's questionable because he's worried about his friends and he's thinking about his buddies he lost and he's getting a divorce and, oh, all this other stuff in his head? I mean, I threw it all out when I was in. And, you know, I lost 3 wives to it. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I'm at work. My life is work. And, you know, and it's sad that professional athletes, high-level CEOs, people who work very hard at their jobs give up something, and that's usually the home life. And now that's usually taking care of yourself and your home life.
So then you retire, you leave, and you're still not talking about it, right? So now you're not in a position where you're going to lose that opportunity. You're not going to be in the unit anymore. You're out. So why was it all still bottled up inside? And you talk in the book about, you know, just drinking and drinking and drinking, and, you know, helping mask the pain that way. So, and I'm sure so many other veterans are going through this. You can't talk about it then, but you can't seem to talk about it when you're out either.
I think my issue, I know my issue was when I got out, I was immediately back doing contract work. Okay. I was working with special forces guys. I lived overseas in Amman, Jordan for a year and a half.
Okay.
I hired 10 other special forces guys, some from the unit. I was working with other guys from the unit first. So I'm still around those guys. And I'm like, I'm not going to say anything, you know, right. I'm not going to. You know, and then when I got back and started working, when I got back from Jordan, that's when it hit me. That's when I realized that it was more than drinking, more than partying, more than chasing women. It was a lot more, and I couldn't handle it. You know, I didn't have a tribe anymore. Contract work was gone. I didn't have a job. That was like what I thought retirement would be then. You know, you wake up and there's nothing to do. I'll go fishing. I never fished in my life. So, you know, I did fish, but it's not my hobby. I didn't have hobbies. My hobby was work. My hobby was going to work. And when that was gone, that is what I see when people get out. And that's when it happened to me a year and a half later. And mine might have been worse because I had a year and a half of overseas partying, not at home. I'm running this whole program and it's going great. Making a lot of money, and life to me was good. I'm making money so I can drink all I want. As long as my job's good to go, I'm good to go. Mm-hmm. You know, and then when the work dried up, and then when I was grabbing some work that was kind of demeaning when I thought about it, in the end, I'm like, what am I doing? You know, I'm in the entertainment industry all of a sudden somehow, trying to teach people how to be commandos and shoot zombies. I'm like, what am I doing? Guys, my time here's up. You know, I was brought on this earth for a reason. It's up. I'm trying to make it last. And that's kind of the day I decided I was not ready for any of this anymore. So it didn't, it took a good year and a half. maybe 2, before the bottom fell out for me. And that's when, and even when the bottom falls out, you still don't start spilling your guts. It's like,
right.
Still, no, I'll fix it. I'm sorry. And then finally, man, I just got broken down. This woman broke me down, but thanks to her strength and her loving heart and her kindness, and I don't know why she stayed with me. I asked her to leave on multiple occasions. I mean, I'd given up on myself. How could I expect her to hang around? And thank God she did. But yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So,
that's actually like true in many more ways than one. Once you read the book, you understand. So, Jen, this is the perfect time now. Would love to hear your story, because you actually do end up saving his life. If you can now kind of talk about how you met Tom and that fateful moment, I'll leave it with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Tom and I met during that period of time where, he was just separated from his wife, maybe 8 months before, reeling in another divorce. I think that at that point, he was trying to reestablish a relationship with his son. He was 14 at the time when I met Tom, and we were on a work project, and I didn't talk to Tom probably the first 2 times that I was on this project. And so I didn't really know Tom. I started to get to know some of the other Special Forces guys that I was working with. Mm-hmm. But I did notice him right away. He just had this air of leadership that people just followed. And he never yelled or anything. He just had this presence, and, people are goofing off over here and they need not to be. He didn't have to do anything other than look at them and just go, hey, and they turn around, they look at him, and boom, I'm like, oh, this guy's got something. I don't know what, but he definitely commands a room. But my dad was Air Force, my brother Air Force, but I had very limited, neither in combat roles. So very limited experience with, as he calls them, pipe hitters or door kickers, the guys that are on the ground. And so this military world was totally different world. I came from fashion, and, I was doing stuff in sports marketing, and I was doing Jack Daniels and Miller Brewing. So I was on the advertising commercial sector. Was asked to come in to do some Special Forces work. I said no 3 times. It's a miracle we met, because I didn't want to be there, and I kept saying, no, this isn't the right job for me. And the guy who was a ranger was like, oh, I already told him you were coming, and you're on the roster, so just do this one job for me, and then if you don't want to do work with these clients anymore, then you don't have to. And of course I went and loved it. It was really just mesmerized by what I was seeing. And so I would start to go on these realistic military training exercises. And for a civilian, and for, I shot action a little bit, but nothing like this. I mean, there's Black Hawks so close. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of our first meetups, and they're like, hey, Tom's going to be assigned to walk you through the exercises so you don't fall down a dark hole, or so that, you know where to go and know where to shoot. And I was filming everything, video at that time. So basically, they use the videos like sports players do, after action reviews, to kind of look and see where they went left instead of right, or where they made a mistake, how they can improve. So there would be countless hours. It would take me about 2 weeks to go through my footage, 8-10 hours a day. I would be with teams anywhere from, probably the shortest is a week, and the longest was a little bit over a month. And after that, that's when I'm like, 40 now.
She tapped out fast.
3.5 years is not fast of sleeping in mosquito-ridden warehouses and sleeping 2 hours a night. But I loved it. I got to see a part of what they do that very few get to. So I am very humble and respectful towards what our men and women do. And it's such a shame, because I wish more people could see. I think we would have such a greater appreciation as Americans of what is required, truly required, to go and fight a war and to keep this country safe. I think we'd have a lot more humility and respect as a country for sure. Because what I saw, he would tease me. He's like, "Are you crying on a mission?" And I'm like, "Shh." He's like, "There's no crying, and there's no crying in war." I'm like, "There's an awful lot of crying in war." And but you know, it's emotional stuff. Guys wouldn't come back from the teams that we worked with, and you know, there'd be an iteration where we'd train them up, they'd go deploy, we'd see them maybe 8 months later, 10 months later, and hey, we lost 4. And you're like, oh, these aren't just SEALs or Green Berets. This is somebody's husband, somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's daughter. And it just became so powerful to me that I knew my place wasn't training to go to war. It never was. But I felt like I could help heal on the home front.
Mm-hmm. And then there's that instance where Tom is, you guys were going for drinks after one of the shoots, and you were expecting to see him at the bar. He didn't show up, and you texted him. What was going on there?
She knew it was unusual that I wasn't at the bar.
He's usually first and last, and I'm like, wait a minute,
something's wrong. Tom's
right.
not drinking.
But no, I had kind of noticed over that day, he progressively got more quiet. He just seemed off. He seemed distant. And at that time, we were barely dating. We were just kind of talking and getting to know each other. But we talked enough that he was very responsive. And so when I, had texted him, like, where are you? What's going on? And he didn't respond. I'd wait a few minutes and I'm like, this is weird. He's usually, right on the phone. And so I messaged him again, didn't hear back from him again. And then I started to get worried. And I thought, I mean, I don't know this guy really well, but I know him well enough to know something's not right.
Right.
We left him, myself and 2 or 3 other SF guys, left him in the parking garage because he said he was going to make a phone call. And so I was just getting ready to text his best friend and a good friend of mine to say, can you meet me in the lobby? We need to go to the car. Like, or to Tom's room, can you check? I don't know where he is. And so I texted one more time. I'm like, as we were going to meet in the lobby, like, hey, you're late. Everybody's here. We're all down in the lobby. Where are you? And then I got text back, on my way. I'm like, oh. And I remember him coming to the bar and I'm like, is everything? And he's like, oh, I was on a call. Sorry. He didn't tell me what he was doing, which was trying to decide to put the pistol in his mouth or the side of his head. And that was the only thought process really that was going through his mind. And I didn't learn about that for months later. That's what really was happening, and not a phone call.
She knew how to get my attention. You're late.
You're late.
You're late. And I'm like, oh no, hell no, I'm not. I'm not going to be late.
So yeah, you really did save his life there. And then, so you guys ended up getting married. And how did, at that point, the post-traumatic stress is really starting to, show, rear its ugly head. And how did that affect your marriage?
Well, we almost were divorced before we even turned the paperwork in. I think we got married on
It's a great story.
Yeah, we got married on a Friday, and I was like, I'm not turning the paperwork in on Monday.
Right.
And I think that was so often people have to hit rock bottom before they get help. And it's such a shame that, and that's what we do now, is trying to catch people before, put the shovel down. You don't need to go all the way down. But Tom, true to himself, burns everything down. Like, everything goes to, I told Tom, like, you don't have it goes to 10. Like, for you, it goes to like 136. Like, your dial is just it's there, or it's 0 or -20, So the drinking, and then he started lying about the drinking to cover the drinking, and the anger was just present, and it was present pretty early on in our relationship. So by the time we got married, we were already together for 2 years at this point. And I was already at that time thinking, what am I signing myself up for? What am I getting into? Because this guy, that I love and I care about has some serious problems. And what's worse about it is he won't admit it.
Right.
You know, I even said, like, picking out my book, do you have post-traumatic stress disorder? You know, and barely knowing what I'm talking about. And he's like, no, I don't have that, you know. And I'm like, reading the pages, I'm off. Sounds a lot like Tom. Like, I think they wrote this book about, you sure?
That's not special operations.
Right. You know, that was just his mindset. And so on our wedding night, he drank the bar dry, and I knew it. It was just, and one of the things that happens with post-traumatic stress is any perceived chaos, the brain can't decipher if it's a real thing or if it's perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like Tom had been talking about this muscle memory, and how well trained he was, that half of the stuff he was doing, he didn't even know he was doing. Really. I mean, it's how he reacted. It was natural for him. So, you know, and his ex-wife and him had a volatile relationship. There's a lot of fighting. And I'm very like, hey, laid back girl. So I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like to fight. I don't like yelling. I don't like anger. I don't like when it shows up. And on our wedding night, he went too far. And the next morning I was like, A, you get help, professional help, or B, you're going to just tear up this certificate from the beach on Friday night, not turning it in. And I'm done. I'm going back to St. Louis. You stay in Savannah. Have a great life. But you've got two choices. I was done.
She
that was
meant
it.
every word.
Line in the sand. And he picked option one, to go get help. And Monday morning he was at it. And literally from that point in time, it's not like we didn't have setbacks or we didn't have challenges, because we had a lot. Mm-hmm. And that first year was so difficult. And I joke and I talk to my friends who are civilians, married to civilians, and they talk about how tough it is to go into that second marriage with kids and all the complexities. And it's like you throw war in on top of it and boom. So, but I will say, you know, once he started that first therapy, which was anger management therapy, we didn't know, you know, like we were treating each of the symptoms versus looking at it holistically. Right. And this doctor, who was Eric Clapton's doctor, has a clinic in Savannah and was recommended. Amazing guy. And he was the first to kind of tell him, like, you think you might have PTS? Yeah, you know, you do. So let's start working with that. And put anger in a way that he understood it for the first time. I mean, he was lit up like a Christmas tree when I saw him the next time. I mean, within 2 weeks, it was 2 weeks before our wedding until I saw him the next time. And already I was like, wow, you know, like instead of drinking 10 drinks a night, he might have been drinking 5 and started walking again. And just somebody had explained to him what was going on that he couldn't explain himself. And that kind of acknowledgement, that kind of, hey, it's not your fault. This is biologically what's happening.
It was hope.
It was, I can fix this then. If I know what it is, I can fix it. I can tackle it. But not knowing what it was or what's going on with me, why am I so angry? It's the number one question we get out of hundreds and hundreds of special operation warriors is, why am I so angry?
They toggle, and I toggle between acceptance and confusion as to why I'm angry. And then, well, I'm angry because I'm a commando. But why am I always so angry? Well, I'm a warrior, right? So it's so much confusing. And I see it go back and forth between my friends and other people I don't even know. It's the same story every time. Why am I so angry? And then you see them touting on social media or something about, well, we have to bring violence. And I'm like, man, you're missing it again. You're on the other side again.
Right.
Back over here. Understand it. Back over here and understand it. It's a constant. We've fallen back the whole time. But you know what? You get back up and you start again. So.
And then, Jen, at some point you decide, you know what, you want to start doing this like full time. You go and get, you go into health coaching and you start helping other special ops veterans. Like, you know, so like, tell me about that. Like what, all of a sudden, obviously you're dealing with Tom here and, you know, some amazing things are happening. Why then go like, to the nth degree? Now I'm going to help everybody. And how does that happen? What happens?
And before she starts, I just read 6 chapters of her book today. I probably cried 12 times. She's almost done with it, but wow. it's the spouse's side of things. So this is like what she did for me in a book now. And I mean, I picked it up to read it today. She's not done with it yet, like 4 more chapters, but I plunged through 6 today, and I don't like to read anymore. I've been reading so much, and I knocked it out. I'm like, wow. I mean, some's about me, but because I know why she's going what she's going through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, and reading it, it was healing for me again today to see some of the stuff. She kept coming out and be crying. She's like, I'm sorry. When we take that out, I'm like, I did it. And it's helping me. And I'm crying because I'm so proud of you for being able to do that and put it down. Because people, you know, when you put your crap out there in your dirty laundry, I haven't had a lot because I'm a guy. And, you know, the people that talk, well, I'm going to talk about certain chapters Tom wrote, but I loved, you know, how you did this and that. Her book's all going to be about the heart and emotions and the sad side of it. And wow, I hope not just wives pick her book up, but anyway, I wanted to brag on that because that's what she's been doing the entire time.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always loved service. Like I was the kid when my mom was just laughing about it. She's like, what 12-year-old gets asked to drop off at the nursing home every Saturday? But I did. I would go to the nursing home every Saturday, and I volunteered, and basically I would go and sit and listen to people talk. And so I had my favorites, and I would go to their room and listen to them talk. And then I was a candy striper, and then I've always done service. And so, and love nonprofit work, and really was looking for a home because film and photography and advertising I had done for 15 years. And I had gotten to that point, I think, where so many people get to, like, this isn't really for me anymore. I picked this when I was 20, you know, I'm 40 now, and this just really isn't. Running around with these guys was cool. And I, you know, got to ride in Blackhawks and Chinooks and shoot weapons and do all the cool stuff. But it wasn't my heart. And it wasn't my place. You know, like he would say, we train up for war. I said, I don't train up anything. I carry the camera. You know, this isn't, I don't know what's going on here. I just try my best and have my little notebook of acronyms that had gotten worn at the edges because I'm always like 6 pages by the time a meeting's done. And I'm like, what? I just, and he's like, hey, what's that one? What's that one?
It's like, don't worry about the acronyms. Nobody else knows either. She was the only one that knew the acronyms because she'd go look them up.
I was totally nerdy about it.
I go, nobody knows what those
There's
acronyms
like unit Delta guys that are like, what is that? And I'm like, it's such and such and such and such. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it's just nerdy, like perfectionism here. But,
wow.
But I got to know the guys, really, frankly, that's what it came down to. And I loved them. And, you know, he would start looking better. You know, he was probably 260 when I met him. He got down to 200 pounds. So, you know, he was fit again. He, you know, drinking became a social thing versus a self-medicating thing.
Right.
You know, people commented constantly, what is Tom doing? What is Tom doing? You know, he's happy. He's smiling. He doesn't look like he wants to kill someone 24/7. Like, you know, how is he getting this way? And I would get so excited. I'm like, oh, I found this new regimen, or, oh, you've got to try this therapy or read this book. And I found myself, like I told him, I was like, I want to just talk to all the guys and help them instead of carrying the camera gear around. And so for about a year, I'm like, we gotta share what's working for you with others. Because I will tell you, as a girlfriend turned spouse, I used to say, oh, it's because I'm a veteran spouse. It's because I wasn't raised up as a wife, you know, 18 or 22, and then, you know, spending my life in the military. I'm like, oh, this must be a veteran wife thing. Like, we don't know what's going on with our guys. And then I started talking to active duty wives, and they're like, I don't know what's going on with my husband. I don't know who he is. I don't know how to deal with him. I'm thinking about leaving him. I'm like, whoa. Like, you're 26 and you're 28. Yeah, but you know, he's this way or that way. I'm like, I know how to help. Wait a minute. You know,
Wow.
Don't call it quits yet. There's hope and there's help. And then people would, you know, call after a deployment, and I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm spending more time of my day trying to help people. I went to health coaching school because I watched these guys for 3 years, and I'm like, they don't sleep, they don't eat well. I mean, yeah, they're built, but they're eating out of gas stations during training. They're, you know, and some guys were very, like, you know, had their macro meals. I'm not saying all, but there was a lot of stuff. And I'm like, dude, you're drinking 4 energy drinks a day. Like, they cause heart attacks for people your age. Stop it, you know? And so once we started learning, you know, the health side of things and started correcting some of the things, our combat warriors are so nutrient deficient, like the minerals and stuff. When I would tell guys, I'm like, go have your doctor test and see where you're at. And they would call me back. They're like, the doctor freaked out. I'm like, yeah, because he's not a military doctor, right? He doesn't see a lot of you because you're living in Ohio, you know, but
Right.
if you were in Fort Bragg, they would, you know, yeah, of course, you don't have any magnesium
It's
or
normal.
adrenal fatigue. And so that's why, you know, I did that, was to understand the spiritual side of thing. I'm talking to a Catholic priest tomorrow. So it's like, I'm always searching and looking for all different aspects of body, mind, soul.
Wow. So then you take it again to another level. So you guys decide to start a foundation. And that's the impetus for the All Secure Foundation. So let's talk about that now. Tell us about the All Secure Foundation, what it is, what you guys do there. Let's delve into that.
She's the mastermind. She told me we need to do a nonprofit. I go, what? What? Start a business? Do what? I don't even know what I'm doing. She's like, we'll figure it out. So literally, she spent 2 years figuring it out. I mean, I continued to work and train. She pulled back, and I continued to work and train, and so we could pay the bills and eat. And you know, we put our own money into it. And she just spent 2 years building it up. And
yeah, I would say, like, really being able to be with teams and getting to know them in different groups, and whether it was a Green Beret team or SEAL team or Ranger, I started seeing the consistencies and started kind of using that time as surveying people. Hey, where do you feel there's a lack of help? Where do you feel like you need the most help? Where do you feel like the Army doesn't have you and you need outside help? Or where can we help be that catch? And so I started, you know, with health and nutrition, because that's where I had just gone to school. So I was like, oh, do you want to learn about magnesium and all of these things that can help your mind? And they're like, well, yeah, that would help. But what I really heard 9 times out of 10 was, I need help at home. I'm going to get another divorce. I need help at home. My kids, I can't relate with them. You know, I don't have a relationship with them. I want to, but I don't know how to. And so 9 times out of 10. And that's why we decided All Secure Foundation, we will focus on the family. We will focus on healing the warrior. 80% of combat veterans who are going through PTS therapy, 80% of them say they want more involvement with their families. They want their wives at the appointments. They want the additional help and support. And so where the Army, I think, had it wrong was like, go to your appointment during work or go to your appointment here, and the family's over here, and there's no connection between the two. We send, so part of what we do is that reconnection on the home front. How do you come back together post dozens of deployments and, you know, years of physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain? How, and by the way, your wife has that same kind of pain, and it might show up as resentment. We see a lot of resentment, a lot of depression, and a lot of anxiety. Okay. And so, you know, really, when Tom's friend went off to Warrior's Heart to get help, he was gone for 14 weeks. And I kept saying, who's taking care of his wife and kids? Because everyone's like, isn't this great? Teddy's getting better. I'm like, yeah, I love Teddy. I love him with my whole heart. But he's got 2 kids and a wife at home. And so he's off getting help. And who's helping her? And everyone just looked at me like, well, the veteran's getting help.
And when he goes home, who's helping them? Right? Is he going to relapse because the trouble at home is just as bad versus the couple? Right? Now you have your battle buddy at home. Now you have your spouse that knows what's going on, knows what's hurting you, and you know what's hurting them. You can help each other versus one at a time, or just the one, just the veteran. You know, I think it's great when people send veterans to places and to thank them, but it's a couples thing if you're married that they've had to deal with it too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, spouses, I've met some of the strongest, most intelligent, hardworking, would never ask for a thing from anybody else, spouses, that I'm like, you've served this country just as much. I mean, you know, I was never a military wife. I wasn't gone. You know, he had to deploy 4 months after his son was born, in an incident where his wife almost died in childbirth. I can't imagine 4 months after that situation, he's like, I'm going to Bosnia.
Wow.
You know, yet she did it. And so many of these spouses do that. So many just do it, and they just, you know, they make it work. So, you know, we have so much gratitude towards military spouses for everything they do, everything they have to put up with on the home front, because it's not pretty. And so they deserve the help as well. And as a couple, when you come together, the healing's quicker. People know what's going on. It's not my treatment, your treatment. It's
Right.
an us thing. And then, you know, we've been doing this for a good solid year, where we've put them through a type of therapy that Tom and I went through. Results speak for themselves. People are doing great. We get calls every single day. You know, this program works. I can't believe how simple it was. And that's the thing that we really try to get into everybody's head, is the hardest part of all of it is picking up that 10,000-pound phone and asking for help. That's the hardest thing. Or calling a friend or reaching out and saying, I need help. That's the hardest part. Once you do that, the stuff that follows it, you
Right.
know how to train, you know how to retrain, you can do this stuff.
Help's the easy part. Like, yeah. Getting people to admit they might need to work on something, or that they need to focus on something different, or to have them call you, like she said, and just say those words. Many of those phone calls start off with just sobbing. And all I can, you know, she said it, I've said it, just let it go. I'm here. You know, 10 minutes later, it's like words start to come out, and it's, man, I know how good that feels. I know how good that feels to just, I don't have to say anything, but I'm so happy I'm doing it. I'm just going to bawl right now. And then,
in fact, you did when we talked about Somalia for the first time.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I wasn't on the phone. I was on a street cafe in the middle of St. Louis, but it was a little different. But it's the same thing. It's the feeling of, wow, somebody cares enough to want to hear my story. All you have to do is listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are like, I want to help. How can I help? You know, I don't know how to help. And I don't know how to help him.
Or I don't know how to talk to a veteran.
I don't know how to talk to veterans. People up at Congress asked us this. We don't get a lot of veterans up here. We don't know how to talk to them. Oh, they're humans. You don't say, hey, what's wrong with you?
Or, hi, do you have post-traumatic stress?
I share my stories of failure right up front. And then as soon as it's okay, they'll do it. They'll tell you. And then they'll tell you what's bothering them. They'll tell you what's going on. And then that's the easy part to figure out.
Yeah.
If a veteran calls you, and they say, I need help, like, what do you do? Like, I know I've looked at All Secure. It seems like you got some programs so how does that work?
I immediately start talking to them, or she'll immediately start talking to them, just to find out what's going on. Just, hey, what's up? How's it going? What's your family? Where you stationed? I try to get as much information. I don't need to hear the story that's bothering you. If it's I lost a friend, I lost a friend here or there. I don't need to hear the story, because
I like the stories. Stories are important.
I want to know, how do you feel right now, and how can we get you feeling better? All those stories for me right now are just a comparison between, you get veterans together telling stories.
That's because it's two veterans.
So
put me on the phone. I'll listen.
I don't need your story right now, but how you feeling, man? Because stories are hard to get through sometimes. If they lead with a story, I listen. I don't guide it as much as just listen.
Okay.
And if they need help, I'm immediately on the phone with them and our therapist, and we'll connect them, and we'll pay for their session. So that's what we're doing right now for people.
Wow.
That reach out to us. We're paying for the sessions. They get up to 3 sessions, either Zoom, Skype, or phone call, whatever they want to do with our therapist, while our therapist is researching
how to get them
local help where they're at with a good therapist. And then she'll transfer all that information over. They can continue on. Just talking has helped so many people. I've had people say, I don't need any more sessions. She's amazing. You guys are awesome. I just needed to talk, and I can't believe that you guys also feel the same way. I don't feel weird anymore. Now I know where to go. Now I know it's okay. And I'm like, well, it's that easy. It's literally that easy.
And for me, one of the greatest things somebody can do is tell their story. And that's where we always joke about this, because, like, I don't care about your story. I'm like, I care about your story. Like, you call me and you tell me, and he's come in the room and I've been sobbing or laughing or whatever else, because it is so important to be heard and to feel like the things that you did overseas matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a fantastic book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. And it's a short read. It's a little tiny book. I thought I had it right here.
Very fast.
But it's dances around my house, because I've we've both read it millions of times, and it's just comparing the Native American experience with our soldiers and how different the cultures were, and why they don't have warrior suicide in their culture. Why wasn't that a thing? And why do we have 22 a day? What's happening? What is the disconnect?
Right.
So much of what, and I had the pleasure of talking to the author last Friday, and I had asked him about some of this, and he said, you have to tell your story. You have to. And not to another warrior. The warriors didn't sit around like he was talking about. Veterans don't want to sit around and be like, well, I shot up this, but I did this, and that can actually happen. We've seen it happen. So we're like, let's mix a little civilian in here, and it worked. And that's exactly what Sebastian had said. In these tribes, the warriors would come back and they would ceremoniously tell all their stories of the battle. And they would tell these community members that they essentially saved from their doom about what happened. Good, bad, sad. It wasn't victorious or bragging. It was, this is my story. The next day, that warrior was chopping wood back to the community, was treated no different, no higher accolades than anyone else. He told his story. Now we're back to a functioning community. And then look at the way we handle our warriors. They come home. And really, home means you're in Afghanistan at noon one day and you're in your bed, 48 hours later. Right. There's no time to decompress from war. And then they're told to be quiet, don't say anything, don't talk about it. Even if it's not said, that's just kind of, that's the culture. And so that story never gets out. And it just keeps compiling and compiling and compiling. And when I noticed with Tom, his first breakthrough happened telling his story. That's all it was telling his story. And when people are like, how can I help a veteran? I'm like, listen to his story. You don't have to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, how many people did you kill? Or what, something tactless about it. But, and people have asked, well, how do you approach about a story? Not every veteran's gone off to war and has big combat stories and things like that. There's thousands of jobs. So, but if you want to help and someone who might be suffering, you have to say, how can I help you? It's like, I'd love to hear about your experiences if you want to share them. I'd love to hear, and there's times where I'll say that on a phone call with a veteran and it'll be 4.5 hours later. Wow. I've probably laughed or cried a little in there, but it's not, my job as the listener, is to receive that message.
I give the tough love.
Often I'm like,
I've cheated on my wife for the 4th time. Can you help me get her back? And I go, why do you want her back? What do you mean? I go, you cheated on her 4 times. I mean, if she'll take you back, why would you go back? Maybe you don't want to be with her. No, I want to be with her. And I go, then stop cheating. Stop cheating.
And then let's talk about, now put me back on the phone and I'll explain reckless behavior and PTS.
I'll tell you what to quit doing.
And why you're doing it.
She'll tell you why you need to quit doing it.
And then you also give them so there's also nutritional consulting that you do for them, because how well it worked for Tom, obviously. Yeah. So you have that kind of program going on for them as well.
Yeah, it's free online, allsecurefoundation.org. Under programs tab, it's 6-week mind and body reset. And that's based on Dr. Hyman. He's a clinical leader. People see him in every documentary. He's the head of the Cleveland Clinic and the Ultra Wellness Center. So this diet is based on his diet. I didn't make anything up. So this is what worked for Tom. I reached out to them, asked permission. They gave it to us, so which I think is great. We offer it for free. It's like a 58-page download. Talks about everything that Tom did, and even in Delta Force, like when he talked about, you had mentioned that mind mapping or that visualization, how you can do that for retraining your brain in a positive way. Meditation techniques, how to sleep better. Sleep is the building block of health, and none of our soldiers are getting any sleep. So it walks you through how to take your health back.
We attack it on multiple levels, and since we started out as a resource library, to where you can just come to our foundation and just find resources that you need, we still have those on there as well. We grew from there, but we still have resources for transition. Here's a website that's great for transition. So I don't like to turn people when they call me and ask me things. Hey, I'm not a special ops guy, but I have these problems, or or I'm like, what do you got, man? What? Just talk to me now. I mean, I might as well
No, we
practice
never turn
anyway.
anyone away.
We don't turn anybody away. And they're like, why do you do just special operations? Number one, that's what I know. Number two, that's about as big as we can handle.
Right.
You know, and if I had enough money, I'd do the entire military, but then, you know, I'd be the VA and ineffective. You can't. You have to be small. People have told us over and over again when they've called us, which I need to start asking people, why don't you call us first? But twice, was it three? Okay, twice last week, I got 2 different messages. Tom, I need some help. I've called 3 different organizations, and I've talked to 2 CEOs, and I answer right back. We're small enough, you know, that I can get right back to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get right on. I don't care what time it is. We're not a 911 number. All right. We're not those people, but we're responsive and we care. And I mean, that was twice last week about people. I can't believe you got me a therapist right away. That's what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we do marriage retreats whenever we're able to get back together again. We've canceled them this year. I mean, we have 2 scheduled out of 8 still this year.
Okay.
The rest have rolled to 2021. But we were going to shift to online programming as well, not only, but as well later in the year. So all we've done, we've shifted and done that now. We're working on that now.
Okay.
We've redone our website, which should hopefully be up soon, which then will add our online programs that we're going to go through, our courses that we do during our weekend retreats. So everybody can do it from anywhere. If they're ashamed to ask for help, they can quietly do it at home and do the same things we do on these retreats. The 6-week mind body reset. We start with the body. If your brain and your gut are off, you're going to be off. So let's get you right while we're getting you right. You know, we teach awareness and we teach the techniques and the tools to help you overcome and fix whatever it is that's, you know,
and that's why
that has to be your issue.
And that's why, you know, I've been so impressed by the responsiveness of the DoD lately. We're going to Air Force Special Operations, 2 different bases for them.
Yeah, I forgot that.
August, September, and then we go to Fort Bragg a lot with the brand new Green Berets and kind of do PTS resiliency training. Then in the evenings we meet with the spouses and do PTS resiliency training. So
that weekend, of course, yeah.
That's really interesting. So you're getting in there early now.
Yes.
So that you don't have to go through what Tom went through.
We spoke to the new X-ray soldiers who came in and haven't gone to anything in the Army yet. We've spoken to the ones that just got back from jump school. We've spoken to the, you know, at the same time, the groups that are just starting selection, to the groups that are just starting the Q course. And there was groups in there that just finished the Q course as well. And there was like about 500 of them, 450 to 500 of them in the room, and just said, listen, I know you're not listening to me because you young kids don't ever listen. Right. But one day this is going to happen to you and it'll be in the back of your mind. Tom and Jen said this, keep this here. And we're going to keep coming back 4 to 6.
And then hopefully that question isn't, why am I so angry all the time? It's, I understand there's a biological thing that's happening. I remember them kind of talking about it, maybe not all the details, but, I understand why I'm mad. Now I can go get help for that versus, well, I don't understand what's going on with me. And nobody likes to say, well, I don't know what's wrong with me. Can you help me? What? I don't know.
Yeah.
So we want to educate, like this is what it is.
You talk about that. You mentioned how this isn't like a lot of people think this is, that's why you don't like referring to it as a disorder, right? It's apparently a biological reaction to the stress that you're under. And it's a whole cascade of hormones and cortisol, right?
Yep.
That stress hormone.
Yeah. Fight or flight or freeze. And that little switch never turns off for them. So when you're in that fight, flight, or freeze constantly and somebody spills the milk, fight. You know, for me, I don't go into fight, flight, or freeze. I've never had that kind of trauma where I need to react that way. However, if you are muscle memory trained to react with aggression, violence, and speed, this has got to get fixed. It's got to get fixed now. Boom. He doesn't think that, well, I handled that rudely, or I was aggressive, or I was talking to you like a soldier. I'm always like, I'm not your soldier. Don't talk to me that way.
I was unaware. She's like, don't talk to me that way. I go, what way? Well, you sound angry at me. I go, I'm just talking, like right now. If I'm passionate, I'm talking. It's like, well, you seem kind of overbearing and large. And
that's one of my favorite things to do with the wife. So I'm like, all right, who's ever said I'm not your soldier? And I'm like, oh, me. Everyone's like, yeah.
It's like running into a room. We do first responders too, so we spoke to some park rangers and cops and SWAT guys this week, or this week.
Last week.
I don't know.
I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Wow.
And I said, you guys don't understand. First, you have to check yourself. You have to be self-aware. I go, if you go run into a room screaming, everybody calm down, is anybody going to calm down? They're going to ramp up to what you're doing. So self-awareness, and it's so important for everything. Self-awareness of me getting angry, self-awareness of my presence, self-awareness of the fact that I've got a Kevlar on and a badge and a gun and and a taser and dogs barking. And I'm intimidating. No wonder people don't like me anymore. Now, I'm not saying mess with cops. I'm saying, not defund the police kind of thing. And I'm not getting political, but this is like retraining.
Mm-hmm.
Retrain them. They're
That's
humans.
what we say.
They need retraining. We don't tell them you have PTSD and you need to go see a therapist. It's like, hey, talk to our friend Stacy. She's amazing. She's a golden unicorn. We're going to talk about retraining your muscle memory. We're going to give you tools to work on so you'll have them in your tool bag for down the road when you need it. We're going to give you different things to pull out that you want whenever you need it. And they love that. It's not like you're sick and you need help. It's let's retrain you, because the last 20 years of your life has been this direction. It's going to take you a while to turn that ship, and get going in the direction you want.
So I want to be respectful of your time. And this is, the conversation's been so enlightening and fascinating. I got to ask, given everything that's happened, Tom, would you do it all over again? Would you go back, if knowing what you know now and what you've been through? Would you join up? Would you join the unit again?
Yeah, I certainly would. I would hope I would bring the new changes with me, but if I had to repeat everything over again, I would. It got me here. I wouldn't want to deviate. You look at that butterfly effect. So yeah, I would do it again. Hopefully I would be able to do it again with tools, change some of my decisions and help some people along the way. But I'd do it again.
That was the longest pause, by the way, he has ever had when asked if he would ever go back. So it's usually, heck yeah.
Well, I want to think about it because my mind's changing as I'm getting further away. And a lot of times people ask me about, well, what was it like? So I have to think back then, what I thought then versus my story now. It wouldn't make sense. It's
evolution.
I was a different person when I joined. I'm a different person again now.
Well, I think what really sums a lot of this up is in the book, when you're speaking to the congressional staffers, and you're giving a speech, you're kind of enlightening them on what you guys go through. And here's what you said. You said, "We all volunteer to serve our country, and I hold a great reverence for it and pride in knowing I gave the very best of myself in those 25 years, 20 of them in the unit. Please hear me when I say to you that we are not done. We want more than to come home. We want to heal. We want to rebuild our lives, our relationships, and offer the leadership we've shouldered over the years to the homes and communities we live in now." That's such a powerful statement. And I think it really sums up what you guys are doing, what you're all about. So for anyone who's interested in learning more about you, Jen, and Tom, and your story, and the All Secure Foundation, where do they go?
So allsecurefoundation.org. And allsecurefoundation.org is, we're on Facebook, Instagram, it's All Secure Foundation as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
Twitter.
Please. And we have a contact. The contact literally goes right to me. I filter everything out through. So when people are sharing information, it's private.
Yeah, we get everything. If you want a book, if you need help, if you want resources,
A t-shirt.
you want a t-shirt, a hat, whatever's on there. You want to make a donation. Everything is right there, so people can get or give right away. and we are responsive. I mean, you can email us and it comes straight to us. People have my number, or on social media, we see it right away. We monitor all that. It's a little busy, but we know what's going on and we can help people versus, we're off on the beach living life and someone else is running the foundation. We don't know what's going on. So we're
Does that happen?
I don't know, but maybe in 8 years, I hope, but we're pretty hands-on. We love to help, and we both lived it. So what better place to hear the story from than those who lived it?
Absolutely. Amazing stuff, guys. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. And Tom, thank you so much for your service. And Jen, thank you for your service, what you're doing for these guys. They're heroes to a lot of us. And to know that you are having such a positive effect on their lives is just an amazing thing. So God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you having us on, because anytime we have the ability to reach more people, we love it. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, guys.